Part 70. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 716. One update arrived. Old Mrs. Ding saw her granddaughter-in-law chatting animatedly with the Zhou family's daughter-in-law, and smiled happily. My chess pieces are pretty good, but I don't have enough friends. Sister-in-law, I'll let her visit your house more often in the future, okay? Relatively speaking, Mrs. Zhou had a good impression of Wang Qi, so she nodded and said, okay, I welcome him very much, and you and Lao Dingtu are also welcome to come and play there often. Sister-in-law, I take these words seriously. Who else can't lie to you? Old Mrs. Zhou glared at her dissatisfied. When did you see me talk nonsense? Old Mrs. Ding laughed and said, Sister-in-law, I'm not too happy, so I just want to make sure again. I will tell old Ding what sister-in-law said later. He may not be so happy. Mrs. Zhou couldn't help but tease her. No wonder he is like a tiger in front of others, but turns into a cat when he is in front of you. The only person in the world who understands him best and thinks about him best is you. He is not ungrateful. How can you not understand this? Sister-in-law, you are really flattering me. He is good to me, not because he cares about me, but because he doesn't dare to disobey me because of my serious illness. Old Mrs. Ding said. He sighed and said, if I leave, who can tolerate his bad temper? He is afraid that I will leave him and leave first. If you say that, you are wronging him. When he was young, who did you think he obeyed? But as long as you ask him to do something, even if others quarrel with you before, will they follow your wishes afterwards? Done. After thinking about it for a while, old Mrs. Ding laughed. Listen to what you said, that's really what happened. You said that he is a good person, but you can't say that he is a good person. It offends him. Clean. Having been together for a long time, I understand his character, so I won't be angry with him. Mrs. Zhou sighed with emotion. Don't Lao Zhou and his temperament have the same temperament? Otherwise, how can they always fight each other for the rest of their lives? Well, everyone else knows how to get around it, but the two of them have to decide the right and wrong. At this age, their temper is still the same as that of a young man. I don't know when I can really restrain my temper. Mrs. Ding waved her hands repeatedly. Sister-in-law, don't compare Brother Zhou with him. If he could have half the good temper of Brother Zhou, I would be satisfied. They're almost the same, haha. Seeing that both the Ding family's daughter-in-law and her own daughter-in-law looked embarrassed, Mrs. Zhou laughed. Look, we've uncovered our shirts, and they don't even know what to say. Mrs. Ding also laughed. Yes, they talked happily in order to ease the relationship, but for a daughter-in-law, how should she interrupt? Are you saying that your father-in-law has a bad temper? It doesn't seem to work. You said your father-in-law has a good temper? It doesn't seem to work either. The two old ladies changed the subject and talked about something else. An old lady of this age, even at this level, does not talk about her husband. What can be said is the children and grandchildren, but now for them. The greatest concern, of course, is the great-grandchildren, in this regard. Of course, Mrs. Ding was still very envious of Mrs. Zhou, so the two old ladies started another round of complimenting each other. This time, the daughters-in-law were able to chime in, with the exception of Liang Xiaohong, the second daughter-in-law of the Zhou family. The eldest brother's two daughters-in-law, one daughter is pregnant, and the other is a twin. The third brother's side also needs to increase its population. Only his son has no faith, and his daughter has no faith. Thinking of this, Liang Xiaohong's eyes were filled with tears. She felt a little hot, and in order to hide her emotions, she quickly lowered her head. Of course Lin Yangkao noticed Liang Xiaohong's discomfort, but trying to persuade him would only make the other party feel more embarrassed about this kind of thing, so she simply pretended not to notice. However, she basically didn't interrupt. Sometimes, silence was actually to the other party. Maximum support. Liang Xiaohong was not a pushy person. She only felt embarrassed for a short time before she recovered. She knew that her mother-in-law did not complain at all about her side of the matter. If she really looked unhappy, she would. It's a joke to outsiders. How could Mrs. Zhou really not notice her daughter-in-law's reaction when she was talking to Mrs. Ding? However, neither daughter-in-law disappointed her, and the smile on her lips deepened unconsciously. Over there, Mr. Zhou and Mr. Ding were reminiscing about the past, surrounded by a group of juniors, and the atmosphere was of course very good. It seems that everyone has forgotten the previous unpleasantness, and also forgotten Ding Junpeng, who went upstairs to find Li Miao. When Zhou Mikang brought Chu Xia to the Liao family, Zhou Xiangping was sitting in the living room, flipping through a little book in boredom. When he saw the two people coming in, his smile immediately opened up. Third brother and three sister-in-law, that's great, I'm all excited, I'm almost bored to death. Where are the others? Zhou Mikang asked with a frown. His sister was pregnant. How could no one in the Liao family be there, leaving his sister sitting in the hall by herself? Grandpa's old comrades in arms are having a gathering today, so they took grandma with them. My father-in-law is in the study, and my mother-in-law and Liao Hui are in the kitchen. Zhou Xiangping lowered her voice with a bitter face, they make a lot of soup for me to drink every day. I feel like I'm almost turning into a water tank. You should drink more soup now. Your sister-in-law also drinks it every day, Zhou Mikang said while pointing to Chu Xia. Look, does your complexion feel better after drinking soup? I have a black streak in my head in early summer. Is there any such advice? Zhou Xiangping also looked speechless. Third brother, where are all this? I didn't say I won't drink, I just said that I can't stand drinking one bowl after another. You don't know, I don't even dare to go out for a walk now, I'm afraid I can't find the toilet. He rubbed his stomach. Just 5 minutes before you came in, I just drank a bowl. I estimate that in another 5 minutes, another bowl will be brought out. So exaggerated, Zhou Mikang frowned. I'll go over and take a look. Thank you, third brother. Zhou Xiangping quickly handed over her hand. She had no right to speak now. As long as third brother was willing to come forward, half of her good life would be revealed. While the two brothers and sisters were talking, Chu Xia had been looking at Zhou Xiangping. Sure enough, after not seeing each other for a few days, she seemed to have gained a lot of weight. Moreover, the slight swelling on her face was definitely due to drinking too much water. I haven't let you drink soup so often before, right? Chu Xia sat next to her and asked softly. Just what happened in the past few days? Zhou Xiangping glanced at the kitchen and saw that no one was coming, so she continued in a low voice. My mother-in-law went back to her parents' home when she was in the 3rd grade of junior high school, and my mother-in-law's sister and brother-in-law also went back, and then, that my brother-in-law is a traditional Chinese medicine doctor, so he told my mother-in-law that I should drink more nutritious soup so that the baby will be healthy. Then, after I came back, my mother-in-law made soup for me every day. At the beginning, I didn't feel it and I was quite happy drinking. However, after a few days, I really couldn't stand it anymore. Originally, Liao Hui was towards me, but after meeting the brother-in-law, he also started to force me to drink. He also said that he saw the results with his own eyes. His aunt's sister's child also returned. The little boy is only 2 years old. He is taller, stronger, and smarter than other children. He said that his sister has also recovered very well, so now no matter how I resist, it's all useless. Chu Xia scratched her head. What I want to know is, do people drink a bowl every 10 minutes like this? Zhou Xiangping shook her head. I don't know. Anyway, when I asked, they all said that he drank many bowls a day, and told me not to go out and inquire about it, lest his aunt and uncle would be unhappy if they found out. Chu Xia didn't know what to say. She was an outsider when it came to household matters, so it was hard for her to say anything. No matter how hot-tempered Joe Mikang is, he would not go into the kitchen and directly ask Liao Hui and his son why they always force their sister to drink soup. If you think about it with your toes, you know that the mother and son are working so hard for the good of their sister and nephew. If you really wanted to question him, it would seem unkind. Third brother is here. Looking up and seeing Joe Mikang, Liao Hui quickly greeted him. What are you doing? Joe Mikang asked, staring at the pot in front of him. I'm making ginseng chicken soup. There are some medicinal ingredients in it. I need to add it carefully. Liao Hui said, pointing to Cai Hongying, who was pressing something hard on the chopping board. My mother was responsible for crushing the medicinal ingredients. This way the effect will be better. That's good. Auntie. Joe Mikang greeted and walked over to look at the medicinal materials crushed into foam by Cai Hongying. What is this? This is Radix pseudostellarii. Cai Hongying raised her head and smiled at Joe Miksang. The smell in the kitchen is not good. You go sit outside for a while. Zaiwai's place will be fine in about 3 minutes. Looking at the glistening beads of sweat on Cai Hongying's forehead, Joe Mikang might not be able to say anything, so he nodded and retreated. How is it? Zhou Xiangping looked at Joe Mikang eagerly. Let's wait until we have time. Your mother-in-law is so busy that I can't say anything. Joe Mikang looked at his sister apologetically. After all, she is your mother-in-law. I can't go too far. I still have to pay attention to the methods. Right. Zhou Xiangping curled her lips and said, don't look back, just let them persuade you to go over. Liao Hui also supported the fourth sister before. Seeing the confusion in Zhou Mikang's eyes, Chu Xia told the story of how Liao Hui originally went to persuade Cai Hongying, but was persuaded by Cai Hongying. Zhou Mikang patted Zhou Xiangping on the shoulder. Don't worry, I won't be persuaded to go there. Your face is swollen. Nothing is too much. Drinking soup appropriately should be useful, but this way of drinking is definitely no. Even if I'm not a doctor, I still think this is unreasonable. Third brother. Zhou Xiangping's eyes turned red. I finally found someone to support me. In fact, if I couldn't stand it any longer, I wouldn't have let third brother help. I had hesitated before about calling home, but I felt that my mother-in-law had good intentions, and if things got too big, it would be my fault. And because of what happened to Zhang Shui, my mother has always been unhappy with my mother-in-law. It was the Chinese New Year, so I really didn't want to make her unhappy, so I endured it. Fortunately, the third brother and the third sister-in-law came over. By the way, you guys must be careful about this. Don't tell mom. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 717. Second update. Do you think your mother-in-law is sincere to you now? Zhou Xiangping asked after a moment of silence to prevent Zhou Miksang from telling Lin Yangkaiu about her mother-in-law forcing her to drink soup. Should be. Zhou Mikang interrupted his sister. I want an exact answer. What should it be? After thinking for a while, Zhou Xiangping nodded affirmatively. Third brother, I believe what I feel. My mother-in-law really recognizes me as her daughter-in-law now. Moreover, she is feeling guilty for what happened in the past. What happened this time? My mother-in-law's starting point, it's good, but it's just because of my physical condition that I really can't bear it. In this case, why don't you dare to tell mom? Zhou Miksang looked at her seriously. Mom doesn't like your mother-in-law because she doesn't treat you well enough. Now that she treats you sincerely, how can mom not like it? Or, mom is so unreasonable in your eyes. Third brother, Zhou Xiangping looked at Zhou Miksang in protest. You know I didn't mean it that way. I just thought it was the Chinese New Year and I didn't want my mother to get angry. Even if I wanted to let my mother know, I had to wait until the 15th day and tell her carefully when I got home. I told her the cause and effect. My mother has such a deep prejudice against my mother-in-law. Third brother, do you think my mother would believe it based on just a few words from me? Don't you believe it? Zhou Mikang asked. Helpless, Zhou Xiangping could only look at Chu Xia for help. Third sister-in-law, you see that third brother always bullies me, so you don't care about him. How am I qualified to interrupt? Chu Xia said as she moved to the side. Zhou Xiangping was so angry that she stretched out her hand and pulled her. Sister-in-law, my love for you is in vain. You didn't help me at the critical moment. Chu Xia shook her head repeatedly. No, don't accuse me so wrongly. I will definitely help with the things that need to be done, but it's really not my turn to get involved in your brother and sister's affairs. Of course, after we have been married for more than 20 years, we will, that's another matter. Zhou Xiangping was stunned and then laughed. Third sister-in-law, are you jealous of me and third brother? Fourth sister, you are unjustly accusing someone of addiction. Chu Xia gave her a speechless look. You two brothers and sisters have lived together for more than 20 years, and you know him better than I do. What do you think I am now? Isn't it just a matter of time to interrupt? 20 years later I know him better than you know him. Even if you don't ask for it, I will definitely intervene. That's what I mean. Where did you think of it? Zhou Xiangping smiled sheepishly. She had really wronged the other party. She thought the third sister-in-law was jealous of their deep relationship with her brother and sister. Then he secretly spat at himself. From the time he met the third sister-in-law until now, when did the third sister-in-law become such a narrow-minded person? Why? Could it be that being pregnant makes you more sensitive? Thinking of this, she quickly asked, Third sister-in-law, since you were pregnant, have you thought more than before? No. Have. Chu Xia and Zhou Mikang answered Zhou Xiangping's question almost at the same time. The other party looked at the couple funny and looked at Zhou Mikang. Third brother. Tell me how you feel. You've already thought about what will happen 20 years from now, how can you say you haven't thought too much about it? You. Chu Xia looked at him speechlessly. Then he realized that he did it on purpose. In fact, his first reaction at the time was that her personality was different from before, but after she said no, he couldn't expose her anymore. But the question is she really different from before? Chu Xia frowned and tried hard to recall. Before she could figure out the result, Liao Hui came out with 2 bowls on a tray. Third sister-in-law, this is ginseng chicken soup. It's especially good for pregnant women. Liao Hui first put a bowl in front of Chu Xia, and then put another bowl in front of his wife. Mom is making fish soup. I'll have fish soup later. Chu Xia, who happened to be a little hungry, was not polite. He picked up a small spoon and took a sip. He nodded with satisfaction. It tastes good. It tastes really good. Then, he took a spoonful of chicken soup from left to right and finished the whole bowl of chicken soup in a short time. Breathing comfortably, he turned to look at the other pregnant woman, and saw that she was holding a spoon and looking at the bowl in a daze. Liao Hui sat on the side and stared at Zhou Xiangping with a begging look on his face. Chu Xia secretly caressed her forehead. It was not easy for such delicious chicken soup to force Zhou Xiangping into this state. Do you want more? Zhou Mikang asked his young wife. No. Chu Xia quickly shook her head, joking, no matter how delicious something is, too much is just a burden. For her, a bowl of chicken soup when she is hungry is delicious, but when she is full, she is forced to drink another bowl. The poison was gone. At this moment, she really sympathized with Zhou Xiangping deeply. You see, the third sister-in-law has finished drinking. Liao Hui whispered, the doctor said that you need more supplements, and my uncle also said that only persistence is effective. My nephew is an example, and the most important thing is for you. It's good for your body. Liao Hui. Zhou Xiangping was about to say something when she saw her mother-in-law coming out of the kitchen. She quickly stopped talking, took a spoon and put it in her mouth. Then she stood up suddenly and ran to the bathroom. The sound of vomiting could be heard. Chu Xia, who was fine at first, suddenly felt her stomach churning. This matter was not something that could be tolerated, so she hurried to the bathroom. Zhou Mikang and Liao Hui followed and looked at the two pregnant women in the bathroom complaining about vomiting. One had a distressed look on his face, while the other had a look of helplessness. After the two pregnant women returned to normal and sat back down, Zhou Mixang looked at Liao Hui seriously. "Brother-in-law, originally I didn't want to get involved in your family's affairs, but after seeing what happened just now, I think I have to intervene." "Do you really think, is your method good for Josei?" Liao Hui sighed. "Third brother, I didn't believe it at first, but the symptoms my uncle said were consistent with Josei's pregnancy symptoms, and my eldest sister is a living example. To be honest, I felt very distressed when I saw Xiao like this, but for her future sake, I felt that I had to harden my heart. After more than a month, it will be fine." "Your uncle said that if Josei doesn't drink like this, will there be any consequences?" "Yes," Liao Hui nodded. "He said that Josei's physical reaction after pregnancy will be much stronger than others, and future childbirth will be more difficult than others. These soups are designed for pregnant women to replenish their nutrition and increase their physical strength without gaining weight. Look at this chicken soup, all the oil has floated out, including the fish soup. After stewing, the top layer has to be floated away. The medicinal materials added in it are all for preventing miscarriage and preventing excessive fat growth. In the early stage, Josei will look a little fatter, but when the child grows rapidly, this situation will not happen. There will be." "Third brother, I don't dare to block it. What if Josei suffers while waiting for delivery? If the child is gone, you can have another one, but Josei cannot be harmed." "Have you ever gone to the hospital to check with another doctor?" Zhou Mikang continued to ask. "Been there," Liao Hui nodded. "I asked all the obstetrics and gynecology experts from various hospitals. Of course, I went there with my medical records. They asked the same questions as my uncle about Josei's pregnancy and delivery." "Have you ever asked about the effectiveness of this recipe?" "I asked Chinese medicine experts from several hospitals, and their answer was that this is indeed useful for pregnant women, but they couldn't give me an accurate answer as to whether this method is effective." "Third brother, there is no other way at the moment. I can only trust my uncle, because my eldest sister is healthy now, and my little nephew is also healthy now." "Do you know about this situation?" Zhou Mikang looked at Zhou Xiangping. "Yes," Zhou Xiangping responded in a voice as loud as a mosquito and lowered her head. She didn't dare to say this just now because she was worried that her third brother wouldn't help her. Sure enough, things turned out like this. She expected that the third brother would also be persuaded to go. However, to her surprise, Zhou Mikang did not agree with Liao Hui, but said, "Although what you are saying now has a certain truth, although I am not a doctor, I believe that the human body can withstand anything. Individual. Drinking these soups is good for the body and can indeed treat symptoms, but is this frequency really appropriate? Or are you sure you didn't misunderstand what your uncle meant?" What Zhou Mikang said made sense, and Liao Hui had also suspected it. However, his mother was very sure that she remembered it correctly, and after he asked, she specifically asked her uncle again, so he didn't. After further research, when he heard Zhou Mikang say this, he became a little uncertain about his original judgment. Taking a look at Cai Hongying, who was busy in the kitchen, Liao Hui didn't know what to do. He asked his mother again, as if he didn't believe her. If his mother didn't approve of his wife in the past, but after the last time, his mother he treats his wife better than his own daughter. How could she make such a big mistake? At this moment, Cai Hongying came out with 2 more bowls of soup and handed them to Chu Xia and Zhou Xiangping respectively. "Spit up what you just had, drink it as soon as it cools down." "Mom. What's wrong?" When Cai Hongying looked at her son, She wiped the sweat from her forehead. When Liao Hui reached his lips, he turned around and said, "Thank you for your hard work." "It's not hard work. For the sake of my eldest grandson, I can do anything." Cai Hongying smiled at a few people. "While you chat, I have to watch the fish soup and control the heat." After she left, Zhou Mikang sighed. No matter what, there was nothing he could say about her behavior, but he absolutely believed that there was something wrong with this approach. "Why don't you go and ask your uncle in person? Of course, you can be a little clever and say that Xiaoxi vomits after drinking. She can't stand this frequency. Can the time interval be longer, and then take a look at you?" "That's what my uncle said," Zhou Mikang said. "Okay," Liao Hui responded. He originally saw his mother working so hard and was embarrassed to go to his uncle. Now, he really couldn't escape anymore. Looking at his wife's swollen eyes, he strengthened his idea. Perhaps it was because Liao Hui had the motivation to respond. When Cai Hongying looked out from the kitchen, Zhou Xiangping drank a bowl of soup happily. Cai Hongying's sweaty face quickly burst into laughter. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind." Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 718. The third update has arrived. Seeing Cai Hongying, who was obviously much more brisk when she put away the bowl and walked to the kitchen, Liao Hui sighed secretly. He was sure that his mother really did it for the best for her daughter-in-law, but he still had to ask his uncle to be sure. "But, will your mother be very sad if she finds out?" Zhou Xiangping's feeling was similar to that of Liao Hui. People are not grass and trees. She was sure that Cai Hongying's kindness to her during this period was definitely not an act. However, she had doubts at first. After the third brother's analysis, she became even more sure of this. There was something wrong with the prescription, and if she didn't ask, she would be really unreliable. However, if the third brother's analysis and her feelings were both wrong, she would force herself to persist, and she would sincerely apologize to her mother-in-law. Looking at the time, there was still some time before lunch. Zhou Mikang suggested, "Why don't you go upstairs and call to ask now? It's best not to delay this matter." Okay, Liao Hui got up and went upstairs, then turned around and told his wife, "If mom asks, just say I'm too hot and go upstairs and take a shower." Zhou Xiangping waved her hand at him, "Go quickly, don't be wordy, I'm not stupid." Before Liao Hui came down, Cai Hongying's fish soup was brought out. She didn't see her son, so she asked with confusion, "Where is Xiaowai?" Zhou Xiangping answered according to Liao Hui's instructions. Cai Hongying immediately frowned, "That's it, can't bear the heat? My ability to withstand it is too bad. How can I take on the responsibilities of the family like this? No, I must tell him later. He can't let himself be spoiled like this. He's going to be a father, so he has to take some responsibility." Zhou Xiangping quickly agreed, Yes, Mom, you want to tell him, you have been working all morning and you don't feel hot, but he can't bear it anymore. How can this be done? I'm used to cooking in the kitchen, so I don't think anything of it. Xiaowai has never cooked before, so he definitely needs to get used to it more. This is what mothers are like. They can say something bad about their son, but when others do, they must find reasons to excuse their son. This is what Cai Hongying is like now. Mom, you've worked hard. Zhou Xiangping didn't know what to say, so she could only praise her mother-in-law. It's not hard, it's not hard. As long as you do well, Mom won't feel tired at all. You two will drink the fish soup quickly and I'll prepare lunch. After Cai Hongying finished speaking, she returned to the kitchen. By the way, where is your mother? Zhang, Chu Xia asked doubtfully, have you not finished your annual vacation yet? Something happened to her family. Sighing. Zhou Xiangping's face darkened. The night before yesterday, her brother went out to drink and drank too much. On the way home, he saw a wire falling off, so he actually picked it up with his hands, and then, he disappeared. Chu Xia and Zhou Mikang were both speechless, but as they were celebrating the new year, it was hard for them to say anything when such a funeral happened. I heard that her brother went out drinking that day because he was in a bad mood. He said he had a quarrel with her sister-in-law. It seemed that it was about Zhang Jun's marriage. Didn't Zhang Jun take a fancy to your family's Xiaojing before? Then, Grandma Zhou also said agree. As a result, 2 years ago, Zhang Jun's mother returned to her parents' home and met the daughter of an old classmate, who is now working in a cultural troupe. The girl had liked Zhang Jun since she was a child. Maybe she heard that Zhang Jun had a girlfriend, so she told her what she thought. Zhang Jun's mother fell in love with him, and then Zhang Jun's mother was tempted. But Zhang Jun and Zhang Jun's father disagreed, saying that there is no such thing as a human being. Zhang Jun's mother felt that Zhang Jun and his father were stubborn, saying that her classmate's husband was a doctor, and marrying a doctor's daughter was much better than marrying a nanny. Zhang's mother told my mother-in-law after the incident. She has worked here for so many years, and the Liao family and the Zhou family are in-laws. She guessed that after this incident, it would be difficult for Zhang Jun and Xiaojing to be together. Just tell the truth. My mother-in-law came to me to discuss what to do about this matter, and I felt that we should see Zhang Jun's reaction first. If he still didn't respond, we should wait until he was 15 before talking to Xiaojing about it. When Zhou Xiangping finished speaking, Chu Xia frowned. What I want to ask is, what has Zhang's sister-in-law's old classmate's daughter been doing? Zhang Jun has been retired for so many years and has been on blind dates. It's not like she doesn't know why she has to argue waiting until this time to intervene. Zhang's mother said that girls are thin-skinned and have always been embarrassed to say it. Moreover, she saw that Zhang Jun had such a high vision and was not worried. This time she saw that Zhang Jun was serious about it, so she was scared. There is definitely something wrong with her character. Chu Xia wrinkled her nose and snorted, isn't this called thin-skinned? If she is not thin-skinned, can she also rob someone who is married? Hey, Zhou Xiangping sighed, I've seen that girl before. She's pretty average looking and very thin. She probably doesn't have confidence, right? Chu Xia secretly stroked her forehead. If in future generations, just the word thin would make me a lot more confident, okay. But now, most people's aesthetics still have the characteristics of this era. Third sister-in-law, she is not as thin as you are. Chu Xia's actions made Zhou Xiangping mistakenly think that Chu Xia was suspecting her of insinuating her, so he quickly explained, she is thin and dry. When she goes on stage without makeup, it's really ugly. What does she play in the art troupe? Chu Xia was very curious about the position of an unattractive person in the art troupe, so she asked. Reciting, her voice is very nice, and she has a lot of feeling when reciting. Do you still need makeup to recite? Chu Xia asked in confusion. In my impression, those who recited on stage in this era seemed to only apply a few light strokes, which is incomparable with the light makeup of later generations. Zhou Xiangping nodded, well, she does it every time, and she looks pretty good. Then I should pay attention to her sometime. What's her name? Let me think about it. Zhou Xiangping smiled sheepishly, my memory is a bit bad after pregnancy. By the way, my name is Zhang Suekin, and she is from the city's art troupe. Chu Xia nodded, indicating that she remembered. Do you want her to leave the art troupe? Zhou Mikang finally spoke up. No, Chu Xia shook her head, although Zhang Ma said so, you can't interfere in the relationship between men and women without fully understanding it. Moreover, if you interfere in this matter, Xiaojing will probably not be able to get married in this life. Don't get me wrong, I'm not jealous, I'm just discussing things. Xiaojing's love for Zhou Mixang was considered an undisclosed secret in the Zhou family, so Chu Xia openly revealed it. Zhou Xiangping quickly glanced at Zhou Mixang, and answered with a somewhat unnatural smile, "Third sister-in-law, when I mentioned this, I didn't mean for third brother to interfere. I just felt that Xiaojing was the nanny of the Zhou family after all, so she should tell her family. Talk about this. You are wronging me again." Chu Xia glared at her dissatisfied. "You actually think that I am jealous of Xiaojing? Such misunderstanding is really sad." "No, no," Zhou Xiangping waved her hands anxiously and looked at Zhou Mixang for help. "Third brother. Who told you to talk nonsense?" Zhou Mixang glared at her and looked at his young wife. "I asked her to leave the art troupe not because of Xiaojing, but because you didn't like it. So whether you want her to leave or not, you don't have to say a word. What does it have to do with me whether Xiaojing will think too much about it or not, and whether she is willing to marry or not? Although I don't like her behavior, I don't think this matter can deny her future. How to do it will be discussed in detail later. However, I like to hear what you just said." Chu Xia smiled at him. "It's worthy of praise." Zhou Mixang turned his head away unconsciously. How could he talk like this in front of his sister? Hey, it was because he doted on her so much that she became more and more ignorant now. But, he seems to like this kind of ignorance. Seeing the awkward look of the third brother, Zhou Xiangping wanted to laugh but didn't dare to laugh. She felt extremely envious in her heart. Compared to the third brother, Liao Hui was so ordinary to her. Just as he was fuming, Liao Hui came down from the stairs, his brows furrowed tightly, and Zhou Xiangping's face also fell. Looking at her husband, the problem seemed to be serious. After sitting down, Liao Hui sighed and looked at a few people. "It's true that my mother made a mistake. Third brother, please beat me. If I had asked earlier, Xiaoxi wouldn't have to suffer for so many days." "What's wrong?" Zhou Mixang's face suddenly became serious. He actually heard something like this wrong. Why is he so untrustworthy? Didn't he ask specifically? My uncle said it was 5 minutes, and then my mother heard it was 5 minutes. Everyone. Liao Hui was also speechless about this. What a mentally retarded mistake, but my mother made it. However, thinking back, he understood somewhat. When he called his uncle, the other party told him 5 minutes. He naturally thought it was 5 minutes at first, because his uncle spoke Mandarin with a dialect flavor. Who does he want to blame? Seeing that Zhou Mixang's face suddenly turned dark, Zhou Xiangping said quickly, "Third brother, don't be angry. I believe my mother-in-law didn't do it on purpose. I have met my uncle before, and it was indeed hard to hear what he said. You can't hear clearly at other times, but is it okay at this time?" Zhou Mixang frowned. "This is the life of two people, one large and one small. How can she not be able to hear clearly?" Liao Hui hurriedly said, "Third brother, what you said is true, but I believe that my mother definitely did not do it on purpose. She probably misunderstood because her excited mind was always in a state of excitement. If she knew the mistake she made, I will definitely not be able to forgive myself for a long time. Third brother, I am definitely not trying to excuse my mother. Otherwise, if I call her out now and tell her face to face, if you don't believe me, you can go over and shout with me, okay? Is this interesting?" Zhou Mixang stared at him and stood up quickly. "Hurry to the hospital and check whether the soups you drank during this period have any impact on your body." "Yes, yes." Liao Hui came back to his senses and stood up to help his wife, his face full of guilt. Ours. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 719. The first update is here today. The meal is almost ready. Where are you going? Seeing the juniors getting up, Cai Hongying hurriedly came out of the kitchen to greet them. How about, let's go after dinner, Seeing Cai Hongying sweating from her busy work, Zhou Xiangping couldn't bear it, so she looked at a few people inquiringly. It's not too late anyway, okay. Liao Hui didn't dare to answer, so he turned his attention to Zhou Mikang and Chu Xia. Chu Xia quietly tugged at Zhou Mikang, signaling him to come down. In fact, in this kind of thing, the person who made the mistake is the most uncomfortable. However, Cai Hongying doesn't know it yet. If they just leave like this, Cai Hongying will definitely not be able to forgive herself when she knows the truth later. Of course, this was her feeling, and she wasn't sure whether it was accurate or not, but she was willing to think better of others. Okay, let's go after dinner. Following Zhou Mixang's answer, both Liao Hui and Zhou Xiangping let out a sigh of relief. Sure enough, it is not easy for outsiders to interfere in housework. From Zhou Mixang's point of view, he feels very sorry for his sister, but from Zhou Xiangping's point of view, she hopes that her husband's family will be harmonious because she loves Liao Hui. Did something happen? After hesitation, Cai Hongying asked. We'll talk about it after dinner. Liao Hui smiled at her. Mom, if there's anything you haven't done yet, I'll help you to him. His wife was important, and so was his mother, and he didn't want either of them to get hurt. Although full of doubts, Cai Hongying turned back to the kitchen and told her son, call your dad out for dinner. Only then did Liao Hui remember. He was so busy working that he even ignored that his father was also at home. Sweat. Seeing that Zhou Mikang and Chu Xia were also there, Father Liao kept complaining to his son, you didn't notify me when guests came. It's so rude, Xiaomi. Chu Xia, Uncle Liao swears to you that I definitely value you. Uncle Liao, you don't have to swear, I know. Zhou Mikang smiled at him, as long as you enter the study, you will never come out without being yelled at. I have known you for so many years. How could I not know you? This habit. So Xiaowai is not sensible. It's okay at ordinary times. During the Chinese New Year, when you came, I actually hid in the study by myself. It's really, ugh. I can tell. Father Liao was really upset, so Zhou Mikang quickly pulled him down and said, Uncle Liao, don't worry about it. We don't blame you. Besides, if you really want to blame us, you blame us. Since we came here, we have become accustomed to you. It's our fault that we went out too. How can I have the nerve to blame you again? Although he didn't like what Cai Hongying did, Zhou Mikang really didn't blame Dad Liao. He's known it for as long as he can remember. Father Liao has the least status and the least say in the Liao family. Mr. Liao is suppressing him at the top, and his wife is taking care of him at the bottom. In fact, Father Liao is not a weak person. His unprincipled compromises are limited to his family members. At work, he is a very principled and upright person. Therefore, for him, Zhou Mikang only respect. At this moment, the meal was on the table. 4 dishes and 1 soup were simple but nutritious. Everyone ate very happily. Except for Cai Hongying, his son knew that if something big had not happened, he would not have eaten. Such an attitude. Therefore, when everyone put down their chopsticks, Cai Hongying couldn't wait to ask, Xiaowai, can you talk now? What happened? Dad Liao asked reflexively. Cai Hongying glared at him, let Xiaowai say it. Father Liao shook his head with a smile and looked at his son. After weighing his words, Liao Hui looked at Cai Hongying, Mom, Xiangping was having such a hard time drinking, so I called my uncle. It turned out that you heard the time he said wrong, it was every 5 hours. Not every 5 minutes, so I must take Xiangping to the hospital for a checkup immediately to see if her body is affected. Cai Hongying felt like her head was pounding. She heard every word her son said clearly, but she couldn't make sense of it, so she looked at her son anxiously, say it again, I didn't understand. Liao Hui repeated what he just said. Father Liao's always smiling face darkened. This is no small matter. Thinking of the crisis between his family and the Zhou family, he sighed helplessly and stood up. Zai, stop being so wordy and hurry up and go to the hospital. He turned to look at Zhou Xiangping. My child, it's my father who is too unqualified. Go to the hospital for a checkup first, and wait until you get back to do anything else. He then looked at Zhou Mikang. Xiaomi, I will give the Zhou family an explanation. Zhou Mikang didn't intend to pursue anything at this time, but it was impossible to say that he didn't mind Cai Hongying's actions at all. Therefore, he just nodded and said nothing else. It wasn't until a few people came to the door that Cai Hongying came back to her senses. She rushed to Liao Hui and grabbed his arm with a ouch sound. Xiao Hui, are you saying that I got the time wrong? Yes. Liao Hui nodded to her. Mom, let's go to the hospital first, and we'll talk about everything when we get back. I want to go too. Cai Hongying held her son's arm tightly and grabbed her daughter-in-law. Xiangping, if anything happens to you, mommy will pay with her life. Liao Xiangping quickly comforted her. Mom, you didn't mean what you said. I know you feel sorry for me, so you let me drink soup. Besides, you are the one who makes soup so frequently. On a cold day, the sweat on your face never dries. You work so hard, but I always blame you for this and that. It's my fault. Don't worry, I've only been drinking for a few days and everything will be fine. I just went to the hospital for a checkup just in case. That's mom's fault, child, you are so kind. What can I say to mom? Cai Hongying's face was covered with tears, but her hands were still holding her son and daughter-in-law tightly. Liao Hui had no choice but to agree to take her with her. Where are you going? As soon as they walked out of the door, they bumped into everyone from the Zhou family who had been looking for them. It was Mr. Zhou who spoke. Uncle Zhou, let's go to the hospital now. Dad Liao briefly told the reason. He didn't want to hide it. Chu Xia secretly stroked her forehead and quietly glanced at her mother-in-law. Unexpectedly, her mother-in-law did not get furious. Instead, she walked up to Cai Hongying, took her hand and comforted her. Don't worry, Xiaoxi and the baby will be fine. Everyone's eyes widened. What is going on? Sensing everyone's looks, Lin Yangqiu snorted. Do you always think that I am particularly unreasonable? We are all mothers-in-law, and we have been looking forward to our grandson for many years. Of course I understand Hongying's heart. She just wants to. Xiaoxi gave birth to the baby healthily and safely. I believe she regrets it more than anyone else at this moment. If I stab her in the heart again, will she still be a human being? Yangqiu. Cai Hongying finally relaxed a little, but then she fell down softly. Lin Yangqiu quickly grabbed her and sighed. You won't be able to stay at home now, let's go, you'll be relieved after going to the hospital for a checkup. Then he glared at Liao Hui. Why don't you come over quickly and help your mother up? Liao Hui was stunned by his mother-in-law's generosity just now. He immediately came to his senses when her mother-in-law yelled like this, and quickly stepped forward to help his mother, but he did not forget to express his gratitude and apology to his mother-in-law. Mom, thank you, Mom, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Okay. Lin Yangqiu interrupted him, don't give me these unrealistic things now. If you really thank me, just love my daughter well. Liao Hui quickly promised, Mom, don't worry, I will definitely do this. Chu Xia and Lin Yangqiu and Zhou Xiangping took a car. The driver was the group leader Zhangzi. Zhou Zikang was supposed to be the driver of this car, but he was kicked out by the group leader Zhangzi. The reason was that there were too many pregnant women in the car. It's safer to have him at the helm. Embarrassing. Dad Liao, Cai Hongying, Zhou Shanping, and Wang Lei were in a car, and the driver was Huikang Xiaotongzi. Cai Hongying's tears haven't stopped since she got in the car. She was really upset. In her opinion, it was an impossible mistake, but why did she make it? In fact, after her son told her, she began to think hard, and finally she was sure that it seemed that she had always understood it wrong, and it was natural that 5 minutes was right. Being so pampered by all the elders, Josei Yangping felt a special sense of satisfaction. Therefore, even though she went to check her body, her expression was always very relaxed. She held Lin Yangkai's arm affectionately along the way, and would often talk to her about it. I had fun with my sister-in-law, and occasionally I would tease my third brother. If I had just had a quarrel with your mother-in-law, wouldn't you be so happy now? Lin Yangkai couldn't help but say sourly, it's really a waste of my love for you. Mom, do you think you have wronged me? Josei Yangping looked at her funny, looking at your generous demeanor just now. Mom, I feel like my face is bright. But Mom, can't you maintain your image to the end? Judging from your appearance now, you are simply a jealous and bitter little wife, the kind who feels extremely aggrieved. Did you say that about your mother? Lin Yangkai stretched out her hand and tapped her forehead. Mom, just one word can change a lot for you. Hey, luckily I still have 2 daughters-in-law. Mom, do you really think I'm stupid? Josei Yangping curled her lips in dissatisfaction. Who is the most important person in your heart right now? Do you think I don't know? But, I am not jealous of her, on the contrary, I am very grateful to her. Then he winked at Chu Xia, third sister-in-law, I'm not talking about you, but don't think too much and label yourself randomly. Chu Xia looked at her with a dark look, isn't there 300 taels of silver here? Too lazy to pay attention to her, he looked at Lin Yangkai and asked, by the way, Mom, why did you finish eating so fast? First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 720. First release of high-speed text. Domain name of this website. For synchronous reading on your mobile phone, please visit. Second update arrived. When her daughter-in-law asked how she could finish eating so quickly, Lin Yangkai had a helpless smile on her face. At the same time, she was even more grateful for her 2 sons' good eyesight. Following Mr. Ding's orders, Ding Junpeng went upstairs to find his wife, Li Miao, and came down to apologize to the Zhou elders. As a result, Li Miao was nowhere to be seen until dinner time. Such a loud slap on the face made Mr. Ding and Mrs. Ding a little uneasy no matter how well-mannered they were. Therefore, as guests, the Zhou family must of course be more sensible. Chu Xia was very touched by her mother-in-law's frankness. Normally, her mother-in-law would not want to tell her daughter-in-law about such things, but her mother-in-law did not hide anything. Mom, don't worry, I will never be so ignorant not knowing how to express her feelings, Chu Xia assured Lin Yangkai. Mom, of course, don't worry. You're not that temperamental to begin with, so how could you be so ignorant? Lin Yangkai sighed as she spoke. Actually, that child has a good heart, but he's just stubborn. You also noticed when you were chatting with her earlier that she was open-minded and had no harmful intentions, but the temper of this young lady is really enough to make people drink. Zhou Mikang snorted coldly, her temper is purely because of her grandmother. She can't blame others. Mom, you can't spoil your children like that in the future. Don't worry, Mom will never feel distressed unprincipled. There are some truths that should be understood by the children. However, I have to say something ugly beforehand. You can't use the tactics of your army on children. The little guy has delicate skin and tender flesh. How can I stand your frustration? It was too early to discuss this with his mother, so Zhou Mikang remained silent. As for whether his silence represented denial or affirmation, only he knew. Lin Yangkai didn't ask further questions. Her son knew that they had only been reconciled for a few days. She didn't want to get into trouble with her son again. Moreover, she meant that if her son really decided on the direction of his education, what would she do? Damn it, you still have to cooperate. Of course, the hospital where the examination is performed is the Maternal and Child Health Hospital. As far as Sidia is concerned, this hospital is the only one with the most complete obstetrics and gynecology facilities. Fortunately, the examination results proved that Zhou Xiangping's body was not affected at all, and the fetus was developing very well. This made the group's hearts finally fall, and the smile on Zhou Xiangping's face became a little deeper. I am happy for myself and my baby, and also happy for my mother-in-law. It was almost foreseeable that if something happened, her mother-in-law would never be able to forgive herself in her life. She had such a cunning temper. Otherwise, she would not have covered up for Jiang Shui even though she knew he was not in good hands. Zhou Xiangping really wanted to follow the group back to Zhou's house, but what happened just now, if she just left like this, her mother-in-law would definitely think too much, so she had no choice but to swallow the words that came to her mouth. Lin Yangqiu understood her daughter's mood very well, so she deliberately stayed at the back and whispered to her, "Xiangping, I'll come back in a few days. Then mom and your mother-in-law will have a good chat and let you stay at home for a longer time." Yes, Zhou Xiangping nodded moodily. At this time, the place she wanted to stay most was her parents' house. A few days later, she felt a little unbearable. She couldn't explain what was wrong with her. She clearly knew that her husband's family treated her very well and was aware of her family's feelings. Even before, she was afraid that her mother and mother-in-law would have a dispute, so she kept trying to excuse her mother-in-law. When my mother was waiting for someone to go home, she felt unbearable. Aunt Lin, a 26 or 7-year-old girl who came towards me, looked at the couple, called out with some uncertainty, and then said in a positive tone, "Hello, Aunt Lin." "Hello." Lin Yangqiu smiled faintly at the girl, "Coming to see your mother?" Yes, the girl showed the lunch box in her hand. During the Chinese New Year, the master chefs take shifts, and the food is not as delicious as before. My mother is also very naughty, so she asked me and my father to deliver food to her every day. Then hurry over and say hello to your mother for me. Aunt Lin. The girl stretched out her hand and grabbed Lin Yangqiu's sleeve, looking at her apologetically. "I heard my mother talk about meeting the third son and his wife. What if my mother mentions something? Just pretend you didn't hear your uncomfortable request. My mother was so anxious when she saw that my cousins were all getting married. She wished she could ask them to marry me off because she had some connections. Hey, she didn't listen no matter how many times I told her. I was really about to be taken away. She was furious. Jin Lan, if Auntie has the right people around her, she will definitely help you. Keep an eye on it. Your mother is also doing it for your own good, and Auntie understands." Lin Yangqiu waved to her after finishing speaking. "Auntie has something else to do, so she will leave first." "Mom, why are you hiding from flies?" Zhou Xiangping couldn't help teasing her mother as she walked a little further away. "My eldest brother is already married, and my eldest sister-in-law is also pregnant. What are you worried about?" "I'm worried that the two of them will be entangled and unable to get rid of each other." Lin Yangqiu sighed. "Otherwise, whoever doesn't want to help with this kind of thing can just help." Looking at Sister Jin Lan, she seems reasonable. Mom actually doesn't have to worry about Aunt Guo, she can still help her. Mom is not sure now. Lin Yangqiu told her little daughter Zhou Zikang's previous analysis. After being stunned for a long time, Zhou Xiangping was speechless. "Mom, I suddenly realized that I am too stupid. Without the protection of our big family, I must make sure that no one is left behind to scheme against me. Mom is not the same anymore. If your eldest brother hadn't said it, Mom wouldn't have thought that way. Hey, don't worry about her affairs. Your own affairs are more important now. Be affectionate to your mother-in-law when you go back. What she needs more now is your trust and recognition. Otherwise, a mother-in-law who always wants to make up for you will also give you a headache." Zhou Xiangping looked at Lin Yangqiu funny. "Mom, you have told me this many times. I find that you are the one who cares most about my mother-in-law now. I've known her for so many years and know what her temper is like, so I'm telling you this. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother to say it. Lin Yangqiu sighed as she spoke. It's hard for children to get married, and if they don't get along well, they will become enemies. Come on, before we were married to the Liao family, I had a good relationship with Cai Hongying, but since you married, she and I have not been able to talk to each other with an open eyebrow. Zhou Xiangping held her mother's arm in a flattering way and shook her. It's all because of us that we made her worry and feel wronged. Hey, is your mouth covered in honey? The couple walked further and further away while talking and laughing, but Jin Lan stood there without moving for a long time. Today's encounter is purely coincidental. When she came towards him, she saw Zhou Zikang at first sight, but all the other person's attention was on the pregnant woman beside him. Of course she knew that pregnant woman. If it weren't for him, she would probably be the one standing next to him. Of course, it might not be, but at the very least, the possibility of yes is very high. Originally, she wanted to go up and say hello, but after hesitating, she stepped back wisely. It was no longer possible to meet Zhou Zikang, and she didn't want to do something that was annoying and not good for herself anymore. Then, she saw Lin Yangqiu. Among all her mother's friends, Lin Yangqiu is the best now, which is different from what she was back then. At this age, she knows very well what she wants, and she also knows that as long as Aunt Lin is willing to help, she can have the life you want. She didn't seek to marry into a top family like the Zhou family, as long as she was similar to the Zhou family. As for marrying into an ordinary family, she had never thought about it. But now it seems that we still can't rush it. After Lin Yangqiu and Zhou Xiangping disappeared from the door, Jin Lan sighed and walked to Guo Caping's office. Aunt Jiao from the office next door was also there. When she saw Jin Lan, she smiled at her. Lan Lan, I'm here to deliver food to your mother again. I just told your mother that it's so considerate to raise a daughter. It's not like me. Sun Xiang only has his wife in his heart, and he doesn't remember me at all as a mother. Lao Xiao, just praise her. If I hadn't forced her, she wouldn't have come. Just let them run around for a few days, and the two of them were complaining. I finally understood that this person is worse than anyone else. Rely on yourself, Guo Caping said as she stood up and washed her hands. You two are nagging, I'll go back to the office and have a look. Aunt Xiao, please eat something too. Jin Lan had already opened the lunch box, and the yellow eggs were lying on it, which was very tempting. Dr. Jiao swallowed unconsciously. Lan Lan, is this your craft? My dad made this. Jin Lan smiled sheepishly. I probably don't have the talent for cooking. If I ask you to fry these eggs, they will burn 9 times out of 10. Let me have a taste. As Dr. Jiao spoke, he picked up a piece of chopsticks and threw it into his mouth with a satisfied look on his face. Lao Jin's craftsmanship is really good. The heat is just right. Lao Guo, you are really good. You are lucky enough to marry a good man who can cook, no wonder you look so good. That's all he has. Guo Caping came back and frowned unconsciously when she saw the chopsticks in the other person's hands. Jin Lan quickly handed the spoon to her. Dr. Jiao stayed here for nearly half a box of lunch before leaving. After closing the door of the office, Guo Caping scolded her daughter in a low voice, don't let her go after her in the future. It's annoying to death. Mom, she is here, how can I not say anything to her? Besides, in this hospital, she is the closest to you. If she were far away from you, wouldn't it be even more uncomfortable for you? Hey, Guo Caping sighed, it's all because my mother is incompetent and has caused you trouble. Otherwise, how could you still be single now and let others talk sarcastically here? I don't care. Jin Lan changed the subject. Mom, I met Aunt Lin when I came here. Their whole family came to the hospital. They left just when I came. Ours. First release of high-speed text. Domain name of this website. For synchronous reading on your mobile phone, please visit. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao. Chapter 721. The third update is here. Hearing what Jin Lan said, he met Lin Yangkai when he came here. Guo Caping, who was putting food into her mouth, froze there for a while. After a while, she raised her head and looked at her daughter with bright eyes. Have you said hello to her? Yes, Jin Lan nodded. A lot of people came from the Zhou family, including Zhou Zikang. I thought about it and didn't say hello to Zhou Zikang. I said hello to Aunt Lin. Okay, daughter, you did a good job. Guo Caping gave her daughter a thumbs up happily. You know your Aunt Lin's temper. She hates girls who destroy other people's families. So, you must stay away from Zhou Zikang in the future. Son, only in this way can she like you more. Mom, I know. Jin Lan smiled forcefully, so, even if I wanted to have a word with him, I didn't step forward. Hey. Sighing, Guo Caping put down her chopsticks. It's all my mother's fault. If my mother had married a man with better conditions, you wouldn't have to suffer this. Jin Lan looked at her mother helplessly. Mom, look at what you said. If you hadn't married Dad, how would you still have me now? That's true. Guo Caping smiled sheepishly. Mom didn't settle the matter for a while. Lan, please don't let your dad know what I think. Otherwise, he will stop cooking for me. Mom. After hesitating, Jin Lan looked at Guo Caping seriously. Do you think now that you are marrying your father right or wrong? Guo Caping shook her head. To be honest, I don't know. Sometimes I think it's a loss to marry someone who takes a job, but sometimes when I see others working hard all day and having to go home to cook and clean up the housework, I feel that it's worth marrying me of. However, the premise is not to be with Aunt Lin and the others. Like them, there is no need to think about these issues at all. What does housework mean when you have a maid at home and a driver when you go out? What's cooking? Jin Lan frowned tightly. Mom, I used to think your idea was right. That's why I deliberately pretended to be good in front of Aunt Lin, but after repeated failures, I was really confused. What if I never find the right one? Compared with the two situations you mentioned before, is it more terrifying to be alone for the rest of your life without a man to hurt you? No, my daughter is not bad in appearance and has good abilities. How can she not be loved by men? As long as my daughter is willing to lower her conditions, there will be groups of men vying to marry my daughter. But, my daughter wants to. The person I want to marry is not just an ordinary person like that. Jin Lan interrupted her impatiently. Mom. I don't want to hear this kind of thing anymore. I've been saying it for several years, but everything is still the same. If I keep waiting like this, my life will really be ruined. Yes, my daughter is already 27 years old. How much longer can she wait? Why did she beg her daughter to find an in-law when she met a friend with better conditions? She was so anxious. It was just to comfort her daughter that she showed no urgency. However, if it is now, let your daughter get married. How many people have to laugh at it? Are you willing? Guo Caping looked at her daughter. Are you really willing to wait until today and then marry into an ordinary family? I'm not willing to give in, but what can I do? When you went back that day, you told me that you met the third son of the Zhou family and that he had a good attitude toward you. You said that he invited you to his house as a guest. To be honest, seeing that you were so happy at the time, and that you were really talking down to him like this because of me, I didn't expose you, based on my understanding of Zhou Mikang. He would never say those words or do those things. After meeting Aunt Lin today, I became even more sure of my guess. I said deliberately that everyone you see now is eager to help me. Her answer was very official. She said she would introduce someone suitable to me. The appropriate time for this can be this year, next year, or many years. For such a sentence, Mom, do you think I dare to wait? But the problem is, except for her, you have already asked for all the other friends, right? I have always thought that in order to live a good life, I should be laughed at. If others say that I want to get married or am crazy, I just say it. I don't care. Anyway, I won't lose any weight if others say it. But today, seeing Aunt Lin treating me like the plague, I really have doubts about my previous persistence. Mom, I want to give it up to Lu Zhenqiang. You. Guo Caping looked at her daughter with some disbelief. Do you really think that short winter melon is suitable? Yes, he is now the deputy county magistrate, but compared with people like the Zhou family, the deputy what is a county magistrate? As long as your Aunt Lin is willing to help, you will definitely be able to marry a man who is 100 times better than him. Moreover, if Lu Zhenqiang is just ugly, his lifestyle is not very good. Mom heard someone say that he found a rural girl before, and she got pregnant. She moved away without knowing why, and now he found another rural girl and got her to work in the county. If you marry such a man, won't you feel aggrieved for the rest of your life? My mother said that instead of marrying him, it would be better to marry an ordinary worker. At any rate, I would not make any mistakes in my style. Jinlan said unconvinced, Mom, do you believe this rumor? If it is true as others say, how can he still firmly sit in the position of deputy county magistrate? Did you get in touch with him? Guo Caping frowned. Lan, Mom is definitely more accurate than you when it comes to men. Listen to Mom, he is really not suitable for you. Let me think about it again. Jinlan sighed. Mom, if there is hope, I am not willing to marry him. However, I have calculated the people around me and he is the most promising. Besides, didn't Mom also say that if you look good, you won't be able to earn a living? No one will be good looking when you get old. So, why should you mind if he is ugly? And Mom, he is different now. If you agree, I will let him treat us to dinner tonight. At that time, you and Dad can also observe him to see if he is still the same as you remember him. Lan. Guo Caping looked at her daughter in shock. Don't scare Mom. When did you two develop to this level? Did you and him, did you do anything excessive with him? Lan, you can't be confused about this, and you can't hide it from Mom. Tell Mom the truth. Jin Ian's face turned red. Mom, where are you thinking? I only met him a few times because of work. He said that he would always wait for me. I met Aunt Lin today, which made me feel a little bit sad. I just wanted to stop procrastinating, so as not to end up in vain. Guo Caping breathed a long sigh of relief. That's good, that's good. Mom is afraid that you will make a big mistake at a young age because you don't know the depth. Children, men care about this matter. Until the wedding day, you must not entrust yourself to which man, otherwise, you will definitely regret it in the future. Mom, you have told me this truth countless times, and I will never forget it. Looking at the time, Jinlan began to pack her lunchbox. I also made an appointment with my friends to play in the park in the afternoon. Let's go. Who are you dating? Guo Caping asked worriedly. Mom, I am 27 this year, not 17. Okay, I won't ask. Just put on more clothes and don't freeze. After sending her daughter away, Guo Caping sat there in a daze. Intuitively, she felt that the person her daughter was dating should be Lu Zhenqiang. As Guo Caping expected, the person Jinlan made an appointment with was indeed Lu Zhenqiang, but it was Lu Zhenqiang who sent the invitation and Jinlan who went to the appointment. Jinlan and Lu Zhenqiang were classmates in elementary school. Later, Lu Zhenqiang's family moved, and they never saw each other again until junior high school. Later, the two became classmates in junior high school. Lu Zhenqiang went to school late. Although he was in the same class, he was 2 years older than her. Therefore, unlike the other boys in the class who were naughty, he took good care of Jin Lan. For example, when Jin Lan was sick, he would help her copy her notes. Occasionally, he would also give Jin Lan an egg. Jin Lan knew that his family's conditions were not good, and the egg might be his birthday or a reward for getting good grades in the exam. Which moved Jin Lan very much. But being moved does not mean liking. In addition, Lu Zhenqiang dropped out of high school when he came to high school, and the contact between the two gradually broke off. It wasn't until Jin Lan was working that they met again, but at that time, he was a soldier under the director of the Revolutionary Committee. He was very enthusiastic about her, but she was indifferent to him. They were in intermittent contact, and it seemed that he knew that she had no intention of him, and never tried to lead her in that direction. The occasional meeting between the two was just a chat between old classmates. It wasn't until Lu Zhenqiang became the deputy county magistrate that his attitude towards Jin Lan became more enthusiastic. It seemed that he suddenly gained confidence and his whole person was different from before. In addition, Jin Lan could never meet the right person, so she took a resigned attitude towards this relationship. In other words, she regarded the other person as a safer spare tire. Yes, he is shorter and uglier. His family used to put a lot of effort into finding a wife for him, but when others heard that his family only had a mother, no father, and a younger sister, they started to shy away from him. Later, she also knew that he had found a rural girl. Moreover, he specifically explained to her that at that time, he really wanted to marry the rural girl and even went to the rural girl's hometown. However, the father and mother of the rural girl were too greedy, and the rural girl also wanted his material things, which made him very hurt. He felt that he would rather be single than marry such a girl, so they separated again. She didn't dare to admit it to her mother because she was afraid that she would object. No matter what, it was a disgraceful past. After thinking wildly, she walked to the agreed park, and he stood at the main entrance of the park. A blue khaki Chinese tunic suit made him look more handsome. Actually, it's not ugly, Jin Lan couldn't help but comfort herself. Lan Lan. Lu Zhenqiang came over quickly, took her hand and held it tightly. I don't know how to wear more clothes, your hands are cold from the cold. The caring words made Jin Lan, who was a little bored with his actions, feel much better in an instant. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 722. Please remember the website address of this website. Please recommend promotion introduction to your QQ group Weibo/WeChat forum post bar. First update. In the cold winter, a man and a woman met in the park. The man thoughtfully wrapped his big hand around the woman's hand, and the woman had a happy smile on her face, looking at it. This seemed to be the most beautiful picture, and the hero and heroine also thought so. However, at the next moment, there were flaws in the beautiful picture. A woman in her 20s suddenly appeared from behind a tree on the roadside and stared at the two of them angrily. Lu Zhenqiang, this is your job, the woman asked sternly. Lu Zhenqiang, who was immersed in happiness, was startled by the sudden appearance of the woman. Then he glared at her angrily. Zhong Hongying, what are you doing? What about you? That's right, what suddenly appeared was Zhong Hongying, who had been missing for many days. At this time, although her tone of voice was angry, she had a calm smile on her face. After experiencing 2 failed relationships and an unexpected encounter, she is no longer the same Zhong Hongying she was before. She knows better what men like, so even if she gets angry again, she has to keep her image perfect. In this era, cultural life was scarce. For young men and women, visiting the park was one of the most romantic things. Therefore, even though it was winter, there were many young men and women in the park. Originally, when Lu Zhenqiang was the only one waiting here, he was not conspicuous. Later, when Jin Lan came and they held hands together, they were not conspicuous. We are all young people and would not be surprised by this. Of course, if you were in other places, the handles would still be very conspicuous, and you would even be pointed at. Therefore, except in the specific area of the park, no one would dare to do this. It is precisely because of this that when similar behavior occurs, everyone deliberately avoids it. It is convenient for others to facilitate themselves. But now, this matter is very conspicuous. Those who avoided it are watching from a distance. In this era, 3 or something is too much. How could Jin Lan not understand what was going on at this moment? She stared at Lu Zhenqiang with shame and anger. You don't have a partner, do you want to get along well with me? Then what does this mean? If she has nothing to do with you, how can you pursue her? Come here. Lu Zhenqiang never thought that Zhong Hongying was such a difficult person. The woman who was originally beautiful and lovely in his eyes suddenly made him feel extremely frightened. So scheming. During this period, he was with her every day, and she was gentle and sweet, and she would go along with him in everything, including in bed. Once, when he was nothing, he felt that it might be difficult for him to find a suitable wife in his life, but in fact it was like that. No matter he was introduced to him or knew him, no one was willing to look him in the eyes. Therefore, under Zhao Qian's at that time, he actually felt that the other party was pretty good. Or maybe he beautified the other person in his heart, and he really made all kinds of efforts to pursue the other person, but after being together for a long time, the other person's temper, unreasonable temper, and lack of interest made him more and more bored. After he became the deputy county magistrate, he regretted his choice. The appearance of Zhong Hongying caused the balance in his heart to tilt rapidly. Of course, at that time, he did not think that he might marry Jin Lan, otherwise, he would not have brought trouble upon himself. The scene in front of him made his head pound. He also knew that all explanations were useless. Zhong Hongying knew his name, his workplace, and where his home was. Under such circumstances, if he was not familiar with the other party, who would believe it? However, he was absolutely unwilling to give up the victory he wanted and choose to be with Zhong Hongying. In his mind, if 3 women corresponded to one thing, Zhao Qian would be clay, Zhong Hongying would be copper, and Jin Lan would be gold. When a normal person encounters these 3 things, there is no suspense about how to choose, and he is no exception. In terms of conditions, Jin Lan is not that good. In addition to her family being local, her appearance and figure are comparable to Zhong Hongying's. However, this is the resentment that he has been harboring for many years. Once, he felt that the gap between himself and the other party was too far, and he suppressed all his thoughts in his heart. Even if he became the county magistrate, he didn't really think that the other party would accept him. He knew exactly what kind of son-in-law Jin Lan's mother wanted to find for her daughter, and the other party would not be satisfied with his conditions at all. However, what he didn't expect was that Jin Lan actually relented and told him that she would take care of her mother's side. When he learned the news, one can imagine his happiness. What followed was regret. Zhong Hongying was not as easy to fool as Zhao Qian. Originally, he wanted to hide it from Zhong Hongying first. After marrying Jin Lan, the other party also nothing can happen. This is not a good thing. It was our first official date and we were caught red-handed by the other party. There were more and more lively people. When Lu Zhenqiang became anxious, he simply picked up one of them and quickly ran out of the park. The 2 of them were unprepared and were actually pulled by him to run. When they realized what they were doing, they both threw them away with all their strength. By the time he arrived, he had already run down a hidden street. What are you doing? Jin Lan stared at Lu Zhenqiang angrily. If you are trying to retaliate against me for ignoring you, then you succeeded. No, no, Lu Zhenqiang grabbed her hand. Lan, you know, you have always been the object of my secret love. In my dreams, I always thought that you would agree to be good to me. It's just that my conditions are too poor and I never thought that one day my dream would come true. Therefore, in order to reassure my mother, I can only bite the bullet and get along with other women. Lan Lan, I believe you can understand this approach. Right. Jin Lan sighed, I can understand it, but should you have solved all the problems before coming to me? You clearly want me to lose face. If my mother knew you were this kind of person, do you think she would agree to you being with me? Originally, I was already married, and if you do something like this again. She couldn't stop choking. After all, I was already married. She was an unmarried girl, and everything that suddenly appeared was really hard for her to digest. Lu Zhenqiang squeezed her hand hard and apologized softly, I'm sorry, it's my fault. I was too anxious. When I heard that you were willing to be with me, I didn't care about anything else. He said to Zhong Hongying, today you have been planning this for a long time, right? Lu Zhenqiang, how did you promise me when you were with me? Zhong Hongying had been silent all the time, trying to figure out the true relationship between Lu Zhenqiang and this woman. Now that she understood it, her strategy naturally came out. I did. At that time, I didn't know that Jinlan would be willing to be with me. If she was a swan, then I would be a toad, and eating swan meat was something I never thought about. Therefore, when I promised to be with you, I was sincere, but I also tell you that it is absolutely impossible for me to be with you again now. You should give up this intention as soon as possible. And after all, you are not at a disadvantage. You have a job, you don't have to go back to the countryside, and you don't have to lose face. You should be grateful to me, right? Where is my innocence? Lu Zhenqiang's face turned red instantly. Have I ever forced you? You've never been forced to take responsibility, right? Zhong Hongying smiled at Jin Lan, sister, we are all women. If you were me, what would you do now? Jin Lan looked at her lightly, I'm not you, and I can't behave like you, so I can't answer your question. But just because he can do this to me today doesn't mean that he won't do this to you tomorrow. But, now you were once the lover in his dream, and you finally agreed, and he will be with you even if he dies. Together. But do you know that when he abandoned Zhao Qian to be with me, I was also the lover in his dreams, fulfilling all his requirements for a woman. Being able to be with me for a lifetime is considered a short life of 10 years. It's worth it too. At that time, I took this evil person seriously, but what was the result? After meeting you, everything he said became nonsense. This is a man. If you believe him, you are finished. Since he is so bad, why are you still with him? Jin Lan was not fooled by Zhong Hongying. You should be glad that you separated from her earlier. Why are you still performing this show here? I have no intention of being with him again. In fact, I have felt his behavior during this period. I came here just to fight for my rights. Zhong Hongying smiled at her, do you really think am I here to snatch a man from you? Haha, you look down on me too much. It doesn't matter if you don't want such a man, just take it, but what he owes me must be paid back. What do I owe you? A woman's chastity. You. Lu Zhenqiang's face turned red with anger, how do you want me to repay you? Of course you can't repay this, but you can make up for it in other ways. After a pause, Zhong Hongying showed a slightly charming smile, I know that you still have 2 staff that can be flexibly used. Give me one. I give you 3 days to complete it for me, otherwise, I will fight you to the death. Anyway, I have been able to get by at this stage. Death, I have died once, there is nothing to be afraid of. 3 days are too short, Lu Zhenqiang frowned in protest, but he was thinking of other ways. He did have 2 quotas, but they were reserved for his sister and brother-in-law. It's not that he can't give it to this woman, but if he really gives it to her, she probably won't let herself live in peace for the rest of her life, right? He suddenly had an idea and turned to Jin Lan, Lan Lan, I listen to you, what do you do? How do I do it? Rs. Domain name of this book, please tell each other to promote it. Thank you. Use the Ctrl+D shortcut key to bookmark it. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 723. Please remember the website address, please contact your QQ group. This is a problem between the two of you. How can I make the decision? Jinlan looked at Lu Zhenqiang lightly. If I had known that something like this would happen today, I would not have honored your appointment at all. Lu Zhenqiang grabbed her anxiously. Lan, if I had known that something like this would happen, I would never have invited you over. This is what you promised me before. If you give me time, I will definitely do it. Take care of it, okay? Jinlan sighed and said nothing. If it were 2 years ago, she would have left immediately without looking back, but now, she can't afford to gamble. Furthermore, after listening to Zhong Hongying's request, she gained a new understanding of Lu Zhenqiang's power. Is it really better to find a man with a better family background than to marry Lu Zhenqiang? She is not sure. She saw with her own eyes the life of marrying a sister from a well-off family. While she was envious, she was also a little afraid. If she met a mother-in-law who was rude to her, she would probably be the only one to know the hardships of that life. Of course, these sentiments only arise in the past few years. In the past, when her mother and Aunt Lin had a good relationship, she was full of good things, so she also tried hard to become the daughter-in-law of the Zhou family, but unfortunately, everything did not go as she wished. At first, she thought that as long as she worked hard, she would be able to find a better man than Zhou Zikang. However, after a few years, she gradually realized the reality. Or, given her conditions, such an idea is simply unrealistic. In this process, the good sisters became wives one after another. Looking at the past, she actually felt that those who married into middle-class families lived the happiest lives. In fact, it was not easy on both ends. However, I understand, if she is allowed to choose. She still wants to marry someone from a well-off family, preferably from an aristocratic family. But running into obstacles again and again made her understand that children from aristocratic families are not so easy to marry, and their mother's resources are limited. Even if she has the share, if she waits any longer, or someone like Lu Zhenqiang, she won't be able to snatch it away. Lu Zhenqiang's conditions are incomparable to those of children from aristocratic families, but he should have more development prospects. Otherwise, he would not be able to develop this position by his own ability. She is also very aware of the fact that Lu Zhenqiang has a big backer, but it is precisely because of this aspect. That's what made her take a new look at Lu Zhenqiang. She knew very well what his family's conditions were like. A man who was capable of his own was always more trustworthy than a man who relied on his family for everything, right? So, she just made a bet, and she believes that every woman's life is a bet. If she marries the right person, she will be happy for a lifetime, but if she marries the wrong person, she will regret it for the rest of her life. She knew Lu Zhenqiang's feelings for her. Therefore, she is not worried when this woman comes to make trouble. She believes that Lu Zhenqiang will definitely solve this woman's matter for her. However, she felt a little bit unwilling in her heart. No matter how many times we talked about it before. They are all innocent young girls, but what about Lu Zhenqiang? One on the left and one on the right. I heard that the one in front is pregnant. Will it be troublesome in the future? Reject. Do not. Persistence, unwilling to give in. Jin Ian's hesitation made Lu Zhenqiang a little scared. His mind was also racing and weighing. Finally, he raised his head to Zhong Hongying and said firmly, "Your request is impossible." Zhong Hongying smiled faintly at him. "I advise you to think again, otherwise, you will definitely regret it." "I will never regret it," and I will never regret it for the person I love. Lu Zhen forcefully grabbed Jin Ian's hand. Lan Lan, believe me, I will be good to you in this life. Okay, I'm willing to be with you, but the premise is that you come to me after you have sorted out these messy things. After that, Jin Lan shook off his hand and turned to leave. Lan Lan. Lu Zhenqiang took 2 hurried steps and grabbed Jin Lan again, hugging her. You won't reject me like this, will you? Lu Zhenqiang, I am a worthy person. If I were a few years younger, I would definitely reject you. But now, after going through a lot of things and knowing that you have been thinking of me all these years, I am willing to give you a chance. I believe you will be good to me all your life, right? Yes, yes. Lu Zhenqiang nodded repeatedly. Lan Lan, don't worry, I will only be kind to you in this life. Give me 2 days and I will go find you in 2 days, okay? Okay, Jin Lan responded. Lu Zhenqiang let go of Jin Lan and said with an apology, Lan Lan, please be careful on the road. Jin Lan smiled at him, turned around and strode away. After passing the corner, tears rolled down unconsciously. No matter what, she couldn't suppress the grievances in her heart. Today's tolerance was her limit. She had never thought that there would be one day she could make such a concession for someone like Lu Zhenqiang. However, age is not forgiving, and she must force herself to bear it. Of course, if she meets the right man in the process, she will kick Lu Zhenqiang away. We're all gone, goodbye. Seeing Lu Zhenqiang staring at the corner in a daze for a long time, Zhong Hongying chuckled, don't act like a lover. If you really have such deep feelings for her, you won't accept Zhao Qian. They won't accept me either. Do you think that all people are like you, only living for profit? Lu Zhenqiang frowned and stared at her. In my eyes, she is the best woman in the world. Before, I didn't even dare to think about being with her. Together, I even feel that thinking that way is blasphemous to her. As a man, it is impossible for me not to find a wife or get married. For the sake of my family, I must get married and have children. Therefore, whether I am with Zhao Qian or with you, I sincerely want to marry her. You. However, some things change beyond my control. Zhong Hongying, you know very well how you snatched me away from Zhao Qian. And I, too, was overwhelmed. In the past, it was because no one followed me that I fell in love with Zhao Qian. If she hadn't been too lazy and disrespectful to my mother, I wouldn't have let her go. Actually, looking back now, even if I don't want her, I don't have to be with you. But at that time, my thoughts were still locked in my previous thoughts. I never thought that I could chase other girls. I even felt that if I couldn't pursue the female subordinate in my unit, I would lose my face in the future. It wasn't until I met Jin Lan again and she showed a different attitude towards me that I really realized that I was different from before. I also truly realized that when you were with me, you didn't really like me. Unfortunately, I was confused at the time and thought that you were willing to be with me because you really liked me. Let's get together and have a good time. You get what you get, and I pay what I should pay. As for the staffing problem, I can't help you solve it. I also tell you frankly that in order to be with Jin Lan well, I can't let you and I work in the same place. Please take a step back. I will arrange for you to go to the factory to solve the problem of establishment. In this life, you should not come to me again. From now on, your life will have nothing to do with me, okay? Go to the factory? Are you dreaming, right? Zhong Hongying laughed. If it was before, she would be very happy if she was allowed to go to the factory. But now, she is used to staying in the office. How can she go to the factory again? Possibly accepted. According to your conditions, without my help, you will never be able to become a worker in your life. Think about it, you will be eating national food from now on, and be sought after by others when you return to your hometown. Are you sure you really don't want such a life? What I want is the same establishment as yours. Zhong Hongying looked at him firmly, otherwise, I will write a letter of accusation and report everything about you. Write it. Lu Zhenqiang sighed, if you insist on breaking up, then I will comply with your wishes and sue you however you want. If it weren't for the fact that you had a fight with me, I would not accept any conditions. I won't promise you. Since you insist on taking things to this point, I will help you, Zhong Hongying. Now I clearly tell you that the worker establishment will not be your share. Also, if you can write letters, so can I. Have you forgotten the scandal you had in Division A City before? Are you sure that anyone will actually believe the letter you wrote? You. Zhong Hongying's face turned red. Lu Zhenqiang, you are not a human being. You forced me. I gave you a chance. If you don't want it, what can I do? Lu Zhenqiang looked at her calmly and said, this is not my intention. You know it well. Is it appropriate to do this again now? Let me ask you again, can't the establishment help me solve it? Cannot. Biting her lip, Zhong Hongying decided to take a step back. Okay, I'll listen to you. You can help me solve the worker establishment. I promise not to appear in front of you again in the future. Really, there was a hint of joy in Lu Zhenqiang's eyebrows. Relatively speaking, this was still the best solution. He didn't want to use any means to cover up the relationship between him and Zhong Hongying. Really? Zhong Hongying nodded. I promised you, I will definitely do it. Okay, I'll do it for you tomorrow. Lu Zhenqiang quickly turned around and left. Zhong Hongying stood there for a long time, sneered, and left in the opposite direction. 2 days later, Chu Xia was chatting with her eldest sister-in-law in the hall when Jing came to her ear and said, there is a pregnant woman named Zhao Qian outside who wants to see you. Can you let her in? Zhao Qian, Chu Xia was stunned. Why did the other party come to him at this time? Do you want her to come in? Akira asked uncertainly. Okay, let her come in. Chu Xia nodded. Take her directly to the side hall. After Jing left, she quickly pulled Zhao Yulan aside and said, Mom, Zhao Qian is here. I go to the side hall to meet her. You can come with me, but I have to say something ugly first. If she is asking for help and it is unreasonable, you must not be soft-hearted at all. Domain name of this book, please tell each other to promote it. Thank you. Use the Ctrl+D shortcut key to bookmark it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 724. Please remember the website address of this website. Please recommend promotional introductions to your QQ group Weibo/WeChat forum post bar. The third update is here. Qian came here. Zhao Yulan looked at her daughter with surprise on her face. She didn't go back during the Chinese New Year. Your second uncle is worried. Realizing that she had not answered her daughter's question, she quickly smiled. Guaranteed, don't worry, mother knows what to do. Xiaojing came over and said, Third young madam, we have been brought to the side hall. Mom, wait a minute, I'll go and talk to grandma and the others first. Chu Xia turned around and whispered a few words to old Mrs. Zhou. When she nodded, she went to Lin Yangkai's ear to whisper a few words. Just because the elders were easy to talk to didn't mean she could have no rules. Chu Xia had always paid attention to this kind of thing. After reporting to the elders, she returned and took Zhao Yulan to the side hall. Zhao Qian, who was originally short and fat, is now not just a fat problem. The 7-month-old belly coupled with her fat body makes people feel that she is taller horizontally than vertically. Hearing the footsteps, Zhao Qian quickly raised his head, and his fat and swollen face was looked at by Chu Xia and Zhao Yulan. Her eyes were red. Obviously, she was not just pregnant and swollen, but had cried. Sister-in-law. Zhao Qian burst into tears when she saw Zhao Yulan. She quickly stood up and hugged her, whimpering like a child. Zhao Yulan gently stroked her back. Okay, okay, my sister-in-law knows that you have been wronged. Don't cry. You have to be happy for the sake of the child in your belly. Sit down and talk to my sister-in-law. What happened? You kid, you don't go back or write a letter to your family after the new year. Your father and your mother are almost dying of anxiety. Sister-in-law. I know who has been kind to me now, but it's too late. Sister-in-law, tell me why my life is so miserable. Am I going to be ruined by myself in this life? After finally calming down, Zhao Qian he began to pour out his bitterness. What's going on? Zhao Yulan asked again anxiously. Zhao Qian looked at Chu Xia, who had been silent and sitting aside, and gave her an ugly smile with a somewhat uneasy expression. Xia, you're not still angry with me, are you? I already know I was wrong, really. Yes, I actually felt that I was wrong for a long time, but I'm just too embarrassed to admit my mistake to you. Don't be angry, okay? Yet Chu Xia only answered one word, and was too lazy to say anything else. She knew without guessing that there must be something wrong with Zhao Qian and Lu Zhenqiang's marriage. The last time Luo Xiaoxian met Zhao Qian, Lu Zhenqiang had some problems with Zhao Qian's attitude. Now, the trouble was probably getting out of hand, and Zhao Qian thought of coming to her. Honestly, she really has no sympathy for Zhao Qian, to put it bluntly, no matter what the situation is. Zhao Qian is all to blame. Zhao Qian also knew that she had done too many wrong things to her cousin in the past, which hurt her cousin's heart too much. It is absolutely impossible for the other party to forgive her just because she admits her mistake. But she also knows. It's useless to just focus on my sister-in-law. It's my cousin who married into the Zhou family. It's not my sister-in-law. If she only asks for her sister-in-law, it will only make things worse. If it was Chu Xia she knew when she was a child, she could just complain to her sister-in-law now, but since last year, her cousin's personality has become completely different from before. It was precisely because her own personality was too self-centered that she knew better what the change in Chu Xia's personality meant. Therefore, she was silent for a while and then smiled bitterly. Xia, I'm sorry. Yet Chu Xia responded lightly again, but still didn't say anything. When I was little, I studied better than you, and my mother always praised me, so I really felt that I was the best. At that time, you only knew how to play and didn't obey, so I looked down on you. Plus, my grandparents, grandma and grandpa in early summer, always favor you, and I particularly dislike you. I feel that you have taken away all the favor that originally belonged to me. You also know my mother's character. What she dislikes the most is grandparents giving things to my sister-in-law. Therefore, what my mother is nagging in my ears is that my sister-in-law is not good and your family is not good. Over time, I have become deeply ingrained in looking down on you. I feel that when you grow up, you will definitely marry into the worst family and live the worst life, or even no one will marry you. It's ridiculous to think about it now, but at that time, I really thought that way. When I saw you there during the recruitment, I felt very ridiculous. How could someone with your conditions be selected? Therefore, I was not surprised at all by the news that you were not elected. On the contrary, when it was later confirmed that you had been replaced, I was particularly surprised. I even privately thought that maybe the leader of the army had made a mistake, or maybe he had just been replaced. Uncle Shun helped me and tried my best. Anyway, I don't believe you are better than me anyway. Later, when I found out that you were married to a regiment leader, my first reaction was that you are old, disabled and ugly. Otherwise, how could you be attracted to someone else? Unfortunately, I was not right. At that time, I couldn't figure it out. You are obviously worse than me in every aspect, so why do you always have good luck? Therefore, When my mother wanted to take me to find an opportunity, I agreed with 10,000 hands. It is under this wrong thinking that I went further and further wrong, and went further and further. I even thought for a time that I succeeded and found my own happiness, which also proved that I am no worse than you. However, in the past few months, either because this little life in my belly has inspired me, or because I have experienced more things than before, and I don't have my mother always praising me in my ears, I finally realized that I've always been wrong. Whether it's height, appearance, or talent, you are actually no worse than me in any aspect. With Captain Joe's vision, if you are really worse, how could he like you? Thinking about what I did before, I regret it. However, I have been used to oppressing you since I was a child. Ask me to admit my mistakes to you. I can't do it. So, what I can do is stay away from you and avoid you. If we can't see each other, if we are farther away, we won't see each other. So, when Lu Zhenqiang asked me to move out of his house on the pretext that I was pregnant and his mother didn't like me, I didn't think about asking you for help. I felt that if I gave birth to a boy, everything would be different. Although the person he sent to take care of me looked at me like a thief, I still didn't lose confidence. I think he was afraid that something would happen to me, so he let that person look at me closely. Otherwise, I really didn't have much. Think. What is on my mind is what he once said to me. He said that he liked me the first time he saw me and wanted to marry me. He also said that I was lucky to have a husband. He said that after being with me, everything went smoothly, so I wouldn't doubt him at all. But I was so bored. I just stayed at home every day. I was really bored, so I went downstairs to chat with old men and old ladies to relieve my boredom. But they and I really couldn't talk together. God knows how much I looked forward to having someone who could talk to me and relieve my boredom. So when I went to the hospital and met Zhong Hongying, and she cried and begged me to take her in, I was overjoyed. I agreed. However, I never thought that she had other reasons for asking me to take her in. When Lu Zhenqiang came to see me, she and Lu Zhenqiang had a very good chat. 3 days later, she said that she had found a job and that she would be taken care of there. And moved out. I really believed her until yesterday, when she suddenly found me and told me that, in fact, Lu Zhenqiang arranged her job for her, and she also lived with Lu Zhenqiang during this period. She also said that Lu Zhenqiang had told her before that when I gave birth to a child, if it was a girl, I would not even care about raising the child. If it was a boy, he would leave the child and not care about me anymore, and he promised to marry her as a wife. At this point, Zhao Qian cried and couldn't continue, so Zhao Yulan sighed and stroked her back. However, the news was too sudden and unexpected, and she really didn't know what to say. Chu Xia was also shocked by the news. She didn't expect that Zhong Hongying, who no one could find, would actually get together with Lu Zhenqiang again. She really didn't know how to judge this woman. In the past, she thought that the other party was fine except for being a bit competitive. However, since joining the army, the other party has refreshed her understanding of her again and again. Zhao Qian finally calmed down and continued. However, Zhong Hongying didn't expect that Lu Zhenqiang would change his mind again after only being with her for more than 10 days. This time, Lu Zhenqiang found the woman he has always been thinking about. I actually know this. When I was at Lu Zhenqiang's house, I helped him organize his things and read his diary. I knew that he had a woman he had always been thinking about. I asked him about it at the time, and he told me that it was just a dream I had when I was young, and asked me not to think too much, and said that no matter what, that woman couldn't be with him. I just didn't expect that he would end up with that woman. After a pause, Zhao Qian continued, of course I didn't believe everything Zhong Hongying said, so I went to the Lu family to find Lu Zhenqiang. As a result, he told me that all this was true. He said that he would compensate me and arrange a job for me when I gave birth to the child. As for the child, if I didn't want it, he would be responsible for giving it away. Sister-in-law, Chusia, I really have no choice but to come to you. I know that no one can help me find justice except you. I also believe that you will definitely help me, right? Did you want to come to us yourself, or did Zhong Hongying remind you? Chusia asked. Yes, it was Zhong Hongying who reminded me. Zhao Qian bit her lip. After returning from Liu's house, Zhong Hongying was at my place. She said that Lu Zhenqiang was determined to be with that woman. She said it didn't matter to her. She had never been pregnant or had a baby anyway, so it would not be difficult to find a suitable one. But as for me, after I gave birth to a baby, who would want me? I know that she wants me to make trouble with Lu Zhenqiang. She is waiting to see the joke. However, I can't really stop making trouble. Otherwise, how will I support the child after he is born? Also, how am I going to live my life? To be continued. Domain name of this book, please tell each other to promote it. Thank you. Use the Ctrl+D shortcut key to bookmark it. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 725. Please remember the website address of this website. Please recommend promotional introductions to your QQ group Weibo/WeChat forum post bar. Chapter 700. After all, she is her brother's daughter. No matter how wrong she has done in the past, she is still a child. Besides, it has not really had any impact on her family. Therefore, after Zhao Qian's words, Zhao Yulan's eyes were a little red. However, she is not stupid. Even if she sympathizes with the other party, she will not make it difficult for her daughter by making random promises. Watermark advertising test. Watermark advertising test. There was a brief silence in the room. Zhao Qian moved her butt uncomfortably. She couldn't figure out Chusia's thoughts and didn't dare to speak again. If it were her in the past, she would definitely ask the other party whether he regarded her as a relative or not, but now, after seeing many things, she knew very clearly that she was not qualified. You came to me, how do you want me to help you? Chusia finally asked. Zhao Qian's energy obviously perked up. She sat upright and said to her cousin, Xia, as long as he is willing to marry me, I don't care about anything else. Chusia looked at her speechlessly. Who do you think I am? Did I ask him to marry you? Brother-in-law. Zhao Qian called out the word brother-in-law weakly, but felt something was wrong, so he quickly changed his words. Captain Zhou, Commander Zhou told him, he should listen. Are you looking for me or Zhou Mixang? Chusia fixed her. You may think I'm heartless because you're looking for me because of the Zhou family's background. But Zhao Qian, I don't believe you don't understand the twists and turns involved. If Zhou Mikang comes forward, it represents the attitude of the Zhou family, and Lu Zhenqiang may comply, but for what reason? Chusia. Zhao Qian looked at Chusia pitifully. I know Lu Zhenqiang hopes that the Zhou family will look at him differently, but he is also capable. In fact, if he is willing to help the Zhou family, it is not a bad thing. Yes. Wrong. Chusia shook her head. You and I can't understand things related to politics, and we can't mess with it. And I, let alone let the Zhou family do things they don't want to do for my personal affairs. If it were Chi Hui, would you ignore it like this? Without ifs, Sister Kiwi would never do such a thing. If she also has such a character, then I will not sympathize with you. It is your own choice to go where you are today. Why should others bear the responsibility? Zhao Qian bit her lip and asked Zhao Yulan for help. Although I can't bear it. But thinking about the reason why the other party took this step, Zhao Yulan sighed and said nothing. Zhao Qian's eyes darkened. If her aunt wouldn't help her, what hope would she have? Chusia. She looked at her cousin sadly. A look of begging. Chu Xia turned her head away and refused to answer her questions. Auntie, Chu Xia, don't tell your family about me, I'm leaving. Zhao Qian got up and left knowingly. Etc. Zhao Qian's eyes immediately lit up, and she said to Chu Xia, sister. When I got excited, I even changed my name. The corner of Chu Xia's mouth twitched unconsciously, and she said calmly to the other party, after all, we are relatives. Even if I don't like you, I will not lead you to a dead end. Xia. Zhao Qian looked at Chu Xia excitedly, her lips trembling, I know. You won't let me be bullied and ignore me. You are not that kind of person. No need to put a high hat on me. I'm calling you to stop you because I want to give you some advice. What Lu Zhenqiang is meeting now is the first love that he has longed for. You have really forced him to be with you. Do you think it will last long? Of course, you may think now that as long as you get married and have a child, everything will be safe, but have you ever thought about how he would be willing to spend the rest of his life with you if he is willing to give away his child for his first love? As long as I give my child a name, I don't care how long it takes. Even if I get married and get divorced immediately, I don't care. Zhao Qian looked at Chu Xia with firm eyes, I don't want my child to be scolded for the rest of his life. For a moment, Chu Xiao was stunned. She didn't think that Zhao Qian could do this for the sake of her children. In her impression, the other party had always been an extremely selfish person, but now she was willing to abandon herself for the sake of her children. No matter what her personality was, she had to admit it, she is a qualified mother. She called the other party to stop because she didn't have a holy heart. If Zhao Qian hadn't been pregnant, she would never have interfered at all. In fact, even if the other person had a big belly, she didn't want to care about it at all just now. But when the other person stood up and held his belly with difficulty, she softened her heart. No matter how bad the parents are, the child is innocent. A child who is nearly 8 months old is already a complete life. Notwithstanding the current induction technology, no one is willing to kill such a life even if it is a last resort for future generations. However, in this era, she knew very well how a child without a father would be viewed and treated, which would definitely kill the child's childhood and adolescence. If Zhao Qian was still the same as before, bossing her around and asking her to help, she could just ignore him, but now that the other party has obviously changed, she couldn't ignore it. Furthermore, this kind of thing can be concealed for a while, but not forever. If Zhao Qian gives birth to this child alone, his grandpa and second uncle will not be able to gain a foothold in the village in the future. Weighing these, she really couldn't ignore it completely. The reason why people are called people is because they cannot be like animals and rely solely on their own preferences without scruples. People always have to consider emotions and ties. This is the trouble of being a human being, and it is also the joy of being a human being. However, after all, she didn't want Zhou Mikang to use the Zhou family's relationship to make a deal with Lu Zhenqiang. What she wanted was another way to make Lu Zhenqiang responsible and prevent him from messing around. With Zhou Hongying's character, she would never let go if she didn't get what she deserved. But now, she chose to let go, knowing that Lu Zhenqiang had given her the compensation she deserved. However, she was not willing to let Lu Zhenqiang go like that, so he deliberately told Zhao Qian to take action. Obviously, Lu Zhenqiang has some scruples. As long as a person has scruples, there is nothing to be afraid of. However, Zhou Hongying went to Zhao Qian because she had calculated that she could not really turn a blind eye to such a thing. So, please don't blame her for being ruthless. I will discuss your matter with Zhou Mikang. I'm not sure what the outcome will be, Chu Xia said. Thank you, Xia, thank you so much. Zhao Qian happily thanked her again and again. Or maybe she was not so excited when Chu Xia agreed at first. She thought that the other party would definitely not interfere, but after so many twists and turns, She really couldn't describe herself. Anyway, her heart is full of gratitude now. After sending Zhao Qian away, Zhao Yulan said to her daughter with some worry, "Xia, mother knows that you are not willing to help her, and mother knows even more that you do this because of mother, your grandma and your grandfather, but Xia, mom doesn't want you to wrong yourself for the sake of your family's affairs. I believe your grandma and grandpa think the same way." "Mom, I'm not in trouble." Chu Xia smiled at her. "Don't worry, Mom, I know what to do, and I won't let Zhou Mixang be in trouble. Besides, we just have to do our best to resolve this matter. As for the outcome, you can't force it, right?" "Yes. Yes," Zhao Yulan nodded repeatedly, "as long as you do your best, you must understand this when discussing with me. Our family can't help the Zhou family, but we can't just add chaos to it." "Mom, just relax, I'll go find Zhou Mikang now." Chu Xia thought for a while, then said to Zhao Yulan, "Mom, don't talk to other people in the Zhou family about this matter, otherwise, they will definitely. I will help, but I don't want them to make a big fuss about our family's private affairs." Zhao Yulan nodded. "I know, Qian, suffered some grievances at her husband's house and came here to complain on purpose." "Okay, that's it." The couple settled the tone and returned to the main hall. Chu Xia scanned the hall for Zhou Mikang, thought for a while, and went upstairs to the bedroom. Sure enough, Zhou Mikang was sitting on the sofa in the bedroom with a book and absent-mindedly looking at it. She came in and quickly put down the book. "Let's go already." "Yes." Chu Xia nodded. "You came up here to wait for me on purpose, right?" "Yes." Zhou Mikang did not deny it. "It's not like I don't know about her relationship with you. If I come here at this time, there must be something wrong." "Is there something wrong with her relationship with Lu Zhenqiang?" "You're so right." Chu Xia repeated Zhao Qian's story, and finally repeated Zhao Yulan's confession. Finally, she expressed her own meaning. "I think finding out what he is worried about will make him have to. Honesty is the best thing, what do you think?" "Don't worry, I'm responsible for this." Zhou Mikang hugged her and rubbed her head. "You seem to be showing off your teeth and claws, but in fact, you are as soft-hearted as cotton." "I'm not pointing it at her." Chu Xia sighed. "Besides, if people always remember hatred and revenge, it would be quite boring. If she is still the same as before, I will definitely ignore her. But, she has changed and has suffered so much. There should be a certain amount of punishment. You can't completely deny her because she made a mistake, right? Besides, I always feel that she is actually quite innocent. If her mother had the same personality as my mother, she would never look like that, and she wouldn't have to go through so many detours, right?" "Yes." Zhou Mixang looked at her funny. "People are always eager to show how kind they are, but you are better off. You always find excuses for others to prove that you are not so kind. You, ugh." Chu Xia smiled at him. "Are you sighing sweetly?" "Zhou Mikang. Domain name of this book, please tell each other to promote it." "Thank you. Use the Ctrl+D shortcut key to bookmark it."